Ready? Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. And I'd like to welcome Mr. McNair to his first Board of Education meeting with us. So we will start by item 1.0, presentation and awards. 1.1, Rockville High School Technology Education Department presentation. Whoever's coming forward.
So first off, I'd like to thank Mr. Testa for inviting us this evening to showcase some of the fun things that we've been doing in Tech Ed. We've been here a lot recently, showcasing our communications program of graphics and video. Very proud of that program, but tonight we wanted to showcase a little bit more of what our department is actually doing, some really exciting stuff on the horizon. I'm Mr. Brian Wright, I'm the Tech Ed department head.
My name is Sarah Drost, and I take architectural drafting.
My name is Urva Hamid, and I'm in Mrs. Phelan's engineering class.
And I'm Mrs. Beelan, and I teach a couple of different classes.
Ray Frost, teacher as well, technology education.
So, you know, a lot of what we've done recently, like I said, working with the video program, you know, we're part of the White House Film Festival, finalists for the CTDMV Driver's Ed competition. We got a lot of recognition, but behind the scenes, Sykes and Perkins, and of course the support of the Board of Ed, has really helped us get some exciting machines into our program and some really awesome opportunities for students to really learn some 21st century skills. I'm really proud to, you know, say that Ray Frost, one of his best accomplishments so far, has been getting the machine shop that had been vacated for a number of years reopened and having some real cutting-edge technology in there. So in lieu of, you know, going with a traditional PowerPoint this evening, we thought it'd be great to actually show you some of the projects that we've made as prototypes for students to work on in the future and actual student projects. So I'll let Ray speak about some of those to start, and I'll pass them around.
Well, we've got 3 new machines I'd talk about, and the first one we got last year I got to use all year long. It was a CNC router, 4x4 router. It's a pretty neat machine. We're still in the learning phase of all the machines, but the CNC router, I'd say 50% I'm happy with. I could learn another 50% and be proficient using a router. And I think that's important for somebody who's supposed to be teaching something to know all about what he's teaching. But I call these my toys because I get to do things. That there is a piece of furniture. The students have an assignment where they have to search the web and find a CNC furniture. And basically it's like puzzle pieces. So they write the program for the shape of the chair. And there's all different kind of shapes they can find. Then they have to write the tool paths in the software for the machine to actually understand and cut out. And to be able to do that, they have to know the limits of the tooling and the speeds and feeds, how it's going to react, how it's going to be held down to the table while you're cutting it. So it's a pretty involved process just cutting out a simple chair like that. The next one going around here is called an inlay. They used those are basic tool paths. It comes out with a little more little better project, I think, in my opinion. They get to do, well, they could do anything. One student, he did a cribbage board. Is Markoff, Sam Markoff, anybody's familiar with him, he graduated last year. He did, I think his project probably outrivals anything that I've done. He was a pretty talented kid. So that's the CNC router. Then we came up with the, well, we actually had a grant about the same time from Perkins, and that was for the 3D printers. So they learned SolidWorks, software called SolidWorks. This over here was done with Mastercam. And then SolidWorks is where we use the 3D, we could write, build parts. virtually build parts, and then we can, depending on how we save it and how we put it into the machine, it'll print it out. That there is if you put a flashlight on the bottom, it'll show the Batman symbol on top, so you can call Batman if you ever need him. The next one here is a phone case. A student who is fairly advanced in SolidWorks skills. He measured out his phone, and he made a case that actually fit his phone. That was one that he made a little bit too small, so he left it with me. But the good thing about this is all the kids take stuff home that they personalize. They like building the stuff. It creates interest. The bad thing for me is I get left with all the rejects. The next, what is that? Is that a chit? It says RHS? Is that what that is? Okay, yeah. Yeah, so that's just a basic chit. It's like everybody has to do the logo. So that's one example of a logo. One is a John Deere logo. That one's the RHS logo. So everybody has to do that. Then students go on further and they do their own projects. The newest, or not the newest, but a more recent addition came in this year. Actually, this summer was the laser engraver. So the laser engraver, we got the rotary attachment. We could do anything we want on glass. It's pretty fantastic. I would consider myself probably proficient in the majority of the laser engraving skills. There's a photograph. I'm still learning Photograph, which is another software that goes with the laser engraver. I just did, I don't know, I didn't count, but there was probably about 40 glasses I did for the Career Center. It's saying RHS. If anybody goes to the school tomorrow, they have a meeting there in the Career Center, and they from the school to business people. So that's a gift that they're giving the school to business people. It says RHS. No, it's a picture of the Ram with Rockville High School engraved on the bottom in the glass. So that was our first successful mass production of laser engraving. Last year we developed, actually last year and the year before, we developed a waste oil burner and kiln. We built it from scratch, from basically a garbage can. Impressively enough, it was a success. After a couple rebuilds, couple trials, couple rebuilds, we can now take our discarded engine parts from the automotive department, and we can melt them down and into, that is it's an aluminum bar. The name escapes me right now. Ingot, yeah, there we go. It's an ingot. So we have the ability to do sand casting if we wanted to make our own parts. So, and there's lots of different things we could do with the sand casting. We could do lost foam casting. We could make stuff on the router, or with the new CNC mill, which I'll talk about in just 1 minute. But we basically, lost foam casting is you surround, I should have brought the pepper. You surround something foam with sand, and you leave a little spot for the aluminum to be poured into, and you just pour the aluminum into that little spot, and it melts the foam away and takes the shape. There's plaster Paris sand cast, lost wax sand casting. Basically, that means if I take one of those plastic things from the 3D printer, that's the type of plastic we need to wrap it in plaster of Paris, and then we can heat it up and then melt the plastic out of it, so it becomes a cavity, and then we can pour aluminum into the cavity and have a new part that way. You can get more detailed parts doing lost wax, or lost PLA casting is what they call it. Then there's the next machine. The room is just filled with all kind of toys. The next machine is a CNC mill, which just got installed, finally installed. There was a couple step process is what I mean by finally installed, about 2 weeks ago. And I have training scheduled for November 2nd, which are professional days, the 2nd, right?
Third.
Or 3rd, November 3rd, sorry. So that I'll be able to get trained from the people who make the controls. I have worked with that controls. I did 2 externships working with area businesses, one in 2010, one in 2013. Both of the places had that type of mill, the track K3 mill. So I'm confident that that's and then talking with the people from track and as well as the machinists, that's the industry standard machine. So we're not talking about, benchtop little stuff. We're talking about industry standard stuff that they're going to see. If they write down that they have ProtoTrack experience on their resume, somebody's going to say, hey, this kid already knows what a ProtoTrack is. Let's get him. Let's see if we can teach him how to work our way around here. So that's going to be a huge, whoever takes that class and works with that machine, it's going to be a huge benefit.
And that's one of the most exciting parts of what we're here to offer. We can confidently say now that Rockville High School is able to give young students an introductory process, experience to machining and CNC programming. And, I know one board member here that's children would absolutely love the program that we are building now from experiences with them as their teacher years ago. You hear all these job fairs, even commercials on the radio saying there's a lack of machinists, there's a lack of skilled people to run this manufacturing in the new era, and we're happy that we can now provide those experiences. It's really exciting.
When you think about manufacturing, I want you to think about, I'll share something that was shared with me both times, and that was one business said he was looking for a sheet metal tech, and there's nothing glamorous about being a sheet metal tech. It's just like a trade, but it's in the manufacturing. Nobody teaches manufacturing anymore. They looked for 4 years for a sheet metal tech, could not find one. They had to cross-train an electrician to be a sheet metal tech. And one of the other place that I worked at, Phoenix Manufacturing, said they were looking for a machinist to work the mill. They couldn't find one. No, wait, I'm sorry. Let me back up. They found a machinist to work the mill, but they didn't need him, but they hired him anyway just because they knew they wouldn't be able to find him. So they were not in the market for an employee, but somebody came along and they snagged him. So I think based on just those 2 observations from those 2 different companies, the jobs are out there. It's just nobody's filling them.
So that's the exciting part happening in those couple of classrooms. I'll have Ms. Beeland here talk a little bit about our engineering track that's aligned to the STEM Scholars Program with the Science and Math Department at Rockville High School. And she also teaches an architectural drafting class that just got a Rookie of the Year award last springtime for creating their home models, which was very exciting. And they're off to the national competition in Las Vegas in a few months, which is even more exciting. I think I might have missed the opportunity to be that advisor.
First, I want to say, Mr. Mechanic, welcome. One of the first classes that I teach is a woods class. I teach woods and construction. And some of the interesting things I believe that we did last year is we got very involved in the community. After the students gained some basic skills, became proficient with a lot of the tools, they did these sets for both Seed Folks, which was a play that the school had, and Little Shop of Horrors. And they also did 2 big community service projects. One was for an organization out of Hartford called Oak Hill, which used to be called Institute for the Blind, but it helps people with all different handicaps all across the state of Connecticut. So they opened up a new camp in Hebron, Camp Hemlock. They just purchased it, and so we made handicapped picnic tables and benches for that organization. It's a great sort of win-win situation because they bring and supply all the materials to us, we can practice our skills, and they get a product when they're done, and the students get to be a part of the community. We also got a hold of, the name is going to escape me, the person from Parks and Rec. And you know what I'm talking about, the name from Parks? Bruce, thank you. And so they made benches for the area parks. So they, Mr. Denny worked with us too, and I think this year he wants a shed for somewhere. So we're going to continue growing those kinds of relationships. The next course I wanted to talk to you about that I teach is engineering. I have 2 full classes of engineering this year. We have the Science Scholars in full force, and it's wonderful. So basically the engineering course has 4 different quarters, We do mechanical energy, hydraulic and pneumatic energy, electrical energy, and thermal energy. We are just finishing the mechanical energy, which is like the 6 simple machines and mechanical advantage. I have Irwa here, and she's going to show you her engineering journal and talk to you about her experience. Then we'll talk about architecture.
Hi, I'm Irva. I'm in her engineering class. So I took this course basically because I was in Science Scholars, and then my counselor told me like I have to take this course. But so we begin the school year with a project. So it was like introduction to engineering and all kinds of engineering, and then we can specialize in like one certain project, and then we can do a presentation on it. And I picked aerospace engineering because that's what interests me. And we also like did all sorts of things to it, so we know like what an engineer is, what's our ultimate goal, and like what are the troubles or stuff we're gonna come up to. And then we began a hands-on project. It was like it's this big wooden platform kind of thing. So we can't go off the board, but we have to incorporate as many machines as we can, and we have to raise a flag that's 3 feet high in the air. So we can go as high as we want, but we can't go off the board, and the board is like very tiny. So we have to build like tiny machines to incorporate that. We can build on top of it, and we have to like use pulley and wheel and axle and screw and all kinds of machines. So tomorrow is the final day of presentations for the machines. We just got ours done last class. And we keep a journal and sketch everything we make because Mrs. Beelan says, so if you invent anything, you can take credit for it afterwards. So you have to keep a journal. We keep a dated journal. Every time we update anything to our machine, we update it in the journal as well. And here's the journal.
Do you want to pass it over?
Sure. And this is like the mechanical part. So we have some stuff we can use from Mrs. Beelan's inventory, and then we can get some stuff as we want. But we have to build every type of machine we do, and that's what we did so far in our class.
So the next class that I teach is architectural drafting, and it's a very interesting class. Last year, one of the projects that the students, they all learn how to make an architectural design model. They learn basic drafting, and then they learn how to use a computer program. And they all go compete in a competition in Hartford against other students across the state. And like Mr. Wright was saying, last year one of the students took Rookie of the Year. So they have to bring their model and their floor plan of a home that they designed. They have certain parameters. It has to be 2,000 square feet or less. It has a garage. The Hartford Home Builders Association puts it on at that convention center. So we can pass this around for you to look at. I have a student here who is also a part of my class, and she has even joined, there's a program called ACES, which you can go work with architects all over, but her architectural firm's in Hartford, and with other students from across the state. They are designing something. I'm not really sure about the project as well, so I'll tell you more about it.
So the project in the ACE mentoring program, you're learning how to kind of meet the programs of what people may want. So there's like a sculptor, a carpenter, and a weaver. And you have to, it's kind of like a summer camp, you have to design a building and space that fits their needs. And some of the things in the program include they need each 3 private spaces for sleeping and 3 studios for each of the craft work. And it's kind of hard to explain.
If you guys have any questions for them, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer anything that you might.
I just want to say I'm new to Vernon, but just to see what career and technical education is doing and how you're using STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math is unbelievable. I'm very, very ecstatic. I'm looking forward to working with you and seeing what the students are doing. But our 2 students should be very, very proud. You're doing things that are being done in the real world now. Building houses, architectural design, what you're doing with the CNC. I know there's a high demand for those type of people in the industry. So I commend everything that you're doing, and I commend your efforts. And I want to thank you for coming out tonight and presenting to us. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
First, I am absolutely thrilled that you now have a machine shop, because when my children were here, it was in use. And many of the items in that machine shop were donated to the school because of the robotics team that was once a thriving mass in the school. And was used on a regular basis to make some of the parts that they used on the robot. And that was back in the heyday. But to know that it has come back into use absolutely warms my heart. Is that the same CNC machine that was donated by Mark Summers?
Unfortunately, that one's out of service right now. We have a brand new mill. It's a Prototrack mill.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with the one that was donated. The steel is good, but the controls are outdated and they're broken.
Okay.
So that's why we...
It needs a controller update, which was roughly the same cost of the new machine.
I was going to say, talk to Mark Summers, he might be able to help out.
Can I speak to the robotics program too? We're trying to regroup that whole concept. As part of the hydraulics and pneumatics quarter that the students do in engineering, they have to build a robotic arm. They learn about the 6 degrees of freedom, and they have to build with syringes an arm that operates, and then we have sort of a battle bot kind of thing that goes on. We've also, through Perkins money, we ordered 3 robotic kits, and we're hoping to get more next year so that we could actually grow that program and have a smaller version of the first program so that we can cultivate some interest in the school so that those students can go on to be part of that RAGE team again.
Wonderful. That really is great, because my own children have really greatly benefited from that program, and I really think that that would be a great way to continue on with all the great STEM initiatives. I have to comment on your little journal, your engineering journal. I think that is a fabulous idea. I'm a teacher as well. I don't know if you know that, but I was coaching our Lego League team back in Andover, where I teach. And one of the things we made our little 5th and 6th graders do is keep a journal of everything and every change and every little piece of that. So seeing that you're doing that and you're putting that in. I'm also the wife of an engineer. So all these things that you're talking about is something that is normal conversation in my house. So I am a big proponent of STEM, and I'm really excited to see all the new great things that you are doing with STEM, because I truly believe that if we want to keep our students engaged, absolutely those are things we need to have in place, and keep our students active in that.
I don't know if you guys got to see last year either. The architectural design students created a 3D floor plan of the entire high school for the use for the security officer and for training, emergency management training. And they do real life stuff, so it's very interesting.
Okay. Mrs. Russell, you want to answer?
I did. I'm just so proud of this program, and I just encourage. How many students in all? I'm just wondering.
In the technology program?
Yes.
It's a very department list.
Do a little quick math here in my head. I'd say percentage-wise, you're probably talking about 10 to 12% of the school in a given year, so you're probably touching over the 4 years, probably roughly 25% of the student population, which is a pretty good impact.
It is. I'm so impressed with it. I'm very impressed with that home and that draft with the courtyard in the middle. And my point is, little lady, can you build me a house free? Thank you.
Mr. Stanza.
I wanted to echo, obviously, great job, everybody involved. One interesting crossover, and I say this only because it's something that I do as a hobby. Have you talked to the art department at all about involving students? Because you can use the lossless casting and the PLA method to do a lot with jewelry. You can do, I actually do silver on the side just for fun and use lossless casting a lot for that. So there's a lot of crossover application there beyond just the larger scale, industrial type stuff.
Yep, believe it or not, we had actually had some conversations with a teacher last year. He unfortunately accepted a position in another district, but he had actually put on the books a jewelry making course. I'm not sure if he ever officially finished the proposal before he did take the other position, but some of those conversations had been had, and then our video program is actually aligned with the art department as well. So we already have those en routes with that department, which is really exciting. We have other en routes with the English department. So I know I always tell people that Tech Ed is the application of so many of the other disciplines, that we try and have our feet in all the departments, just as to say, hey, we're here to help you guys and help solve problems and show you some real world applications. But it's very cool.
I'm very impressed with everything that you've told us. I just wanted to comment on how you've integrated the capabilities of your department with community service as well. I think that's so impressive, the things that you've been able to do in the community that serve other people as well. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you very much for doing that too.
Sounds like a great program. I was curious, do you have any idea where you might take this to the next step, the next level, if you had your way of molding the program and turning it to the next step? Where, in other words, what equipment do you want and where you want to take it, where you'd like to expand your educational emphasis?
Are you specifically for the STEM lab or in general?
The entire department.
Well, for me, that my STEM lab is basically my area. That was part of a 3-year initiative set forward by Jerry Griffin a few years ago. But what we have left is the lathes. I like to get so at least one newer lathe, something bigger, something we can turn bigger stuff with. There's nothing wrong with the lathes, the 3 lathes that we have now, except when I show them the machining book. There's actually a picture of one of those lathes in there and it says seldom used today. so there's nothing wrong with it, it's just antiquated, but it still does its job. So I'd like to get at least one newer lathe in there so they have some kind of idea what they're going to see when they get out into the real world.
And one of the things we've been having internal conversations about too is creating as we move to that, especially with the STEM Scholars Program, having more of a 12th grade capstone project. Almost creating more of a 12th grade research and design course. Our passions would obviously want to push them down that transportation path because we have really good capabilities in our auto shop coupled with the machine shop to do some really cool transportation projects. I know one of them out there is the Electrothon where they build a solar racer. So there's some neat opportunities. The students that will benefit from that long-range planning and that STEM Scholars Program are currently 10th graders. So we have a vision, and we'll see how far we can take it. The foundation, I think, is second to none in the state of Connecticut. I'm so proud of what we have.
One of the things I would like to see grow is, I don't know if the first robotics family has 3 different levels of robotics that students can get involved with them. The first one's Lego, which is basically a middle school type project. And then there's the big one that's like 12 grand. FRC.
Which is first.
Right, and the FTC is a mid-range one, and those kids are around $500–600 a piece. And I would like to get more of those because if I could get the students trained on those and they already understand some of the basics of robotics and programming, then they could move into FTC. I think easier, and I think we could even have our own FRC, we could even have our own FTC, we could go to those competitions as well. They're a lot less expensive and they could get the concepts. It's more individualized to the student instead of a whole big group project, so that it'd be more hands-on for them. That's my vision.
Thank you.
It's all incredibly impressive, and the machines that you have in the machine shop, how many years old are they? I know you've been driving them
The
slowly.
lathe, the one I was just talking about.
Right, well, just all of the machines, the 3D printer and the laser printer.
Basically everything is brand new industry standard.
And the architectural program, I can tell you, my son did it, and he is a successful architect right now. So you have a wonderful foundation for the students. Thank you very much for coming. You guys gave a
Thank
great
you.
presentation.
Thank you.
Can we come use machines in?
There's so much that changed over there. I'd like to invite everybody to come over and see, at least see the room. I mean, it's
I just want to say, can I put my order in for one of those signs and a few of those
all right,
glasses?
yeah, sure, yeah.
You could pay for all the equipment with all the sales.
Yeah, we'll talk when you come see the seminar.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know we went a little long, but we're really passionate about what we're doing. Thanks for your support.
Thank you so much.
Are we ready now, Peter? Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item 2.1, A, B, and C. Mrs. Bush.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Second. Mrs. Russell, anyone want to pull anything? Mrs. Arndt?
May I just ask a question, or do I need to pull the item?
Well, let's see how easy your question is.
At the 9/28 meeting, we approved the request to apply for the, that math science partnership grant. And then, so this item is to submit the application. I'm just confused by what we did and then what we're doing.
Mr. Testa.
At the 9/28 meeting, I mentioned the possibility of a science focus. So the grant covers math and science. We're also going to apply, as you can see, for a science portion of it, which would be a partnership with UConn and our chemistry teachers at the high school.
So it's why it all read the same.
Exactly.
We did math,
It's
now
the
we're
same
doing
grant.
science.
Exactly.
Okay. My apologies, I didn't understand. Thank you.
Okay, so anyone else want to, pull anything? Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Item 3.0, opportunity for Board of Education to add or delete agenda items. Anybody need to add or delete? Mr. McCary, I think you wanted to add an executive session for pending legal claims, which we will put in. Someone's willing to make a motion. Have to be item 7.4. Mrs. Bush?
I'd like to make a motion that we add agenda item 7.4, executive sessions, to discuss legal issues.
I'll second
I second that, Mr. Linton, all those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Any other additions or deletions? No? Okay, introduction of our new Rockville High School student representatives, are they here?
Well, they can't be here this evening, but the two students, we do have two juniors, Brittany Fisher, sorry. Sorry, they're extremely active, as a lot of our representatives tend to be. So Brittany Fisher, a junior, and Charles Artis are the two representatives for the high school.
So next time, when they are able to come, we'll hear all about them. Item 3.3, okay, well, obviously, student representative report, they're not here, so we do not have a report. So we'll move on to item 4.0, the community forum. Opportunity for comments on agenda items, potential future agenda items, or general information provided to the board from citizens and community organizations. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board? Please come forward, state your name and address.
There's no pad for my name and address.
I think we know you.
Lori Bedoric, 60 Patricia Drive. Welcome, Mr. McCary. Actually, I had really just wanted to mention something that came to mind today, and tech ed gives me a whole new idea. I was at my second school PTO meeting last week at BCMS. And they had an agenda item that we had tackled at Center Road, and it's the signage for the school. The school signage is always something that the PTOs happen to deal with as part of beautification. And every school seems to handle it on their own, and I'm not sure if that's how the board intends that to be handled going forward. I know the BCMS PTO, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Linton, they were talking about there is no sign on West Street Road. I don't remember. West Street, right? There is no sign for BCMS on that street on the road, and I think they were also talking about cleaning up the sign on the other side, and it's fading, I think, but maybe I'm wrong.
I thought that was redone 2 years ago.
Maybe
refurbished.
it was.
You mean the wood sign right there?
Yes. And then on the west side, so West Road or West Street?
West Road.
West Road. There's 3 community signs that are various heights, widths, lengths, pretty much unappealing.
But they were talking about a marker for the school on that side, because that is where our athletic fields are. So when other schools come, a lot of times the buses will come in that way. But I just wanted to make a point, as we talk about consistency among the schools, that's one thing that I don't know if the facilities committee would want to address, but I don't know how the other schools do it, but Center Road, the PTO did pay to have that sign cleaned up and repainted a couple of years ago. And I know BCMS is talking about signage as well. I don't know about the other schools, but it would help for beautification for the schools in the town if everybody was kind of consistent on their signing rather than relying on their PCOs to do that, since some are much more efficient than others. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else wish to address the board this evening? Okay, we will move on to item 5.0, personnel. Introduction of the new Director of Food and Nutrition Services, Mr. McCary. Mr. Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. McCary. Through you, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure for me to introduce to the board Mr. Paul Olson as our new Director of Food and Nutrition Services. Mr. Olson is a food service professional with over 20 years of experience in the hospitality industry. He's owned his own multi-unit restaurant company, and he has since moved out to hold director positions at the University of Hartford, American International College, and most recently at Yale New Haven Hospital. He currently resides in Cheshire with his wife Jennifer, who is a school principal in Derby, and his 3 children. So it's a pleasure for me, through Madam Chair, to introduce you to Mr. Paul Olson. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I thank the board and thank the district for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to a long career here in Vernon, and looking forward to bringing the food director position into a profitable state of affairs here for the district.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Does anybody have any questions for Paul? Mrs. Russell.
We are known to have a problem with the students eating healthy foods.
Yes.
And I noticed that you have a program, or you established a program or something, in reading that. How successful have you been with that?
Which program?
The healthy cooking and nutrition program for students in
Oh.
K through 12.
Yes. We will, through my past experience, we will be working with a lot of great recipes and working with the children, getting them great feedback from the schools and from the kids and from the children themselves, and initiating a lot of great programs and getting them involved, and getting them excited and eating and wanting to be there.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions of us, or you all
No,
set?
no, I appreciate your
Well,
time.
thank you very much, and we're glad to meet you, and we wish you good luck in this new position.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. And now we'll move on to item 5.2, memorandum of understanding with the VEA. This calls for an executive session, inviting Mr. McCary. Would someone like to make that motion?
Just as a suggestion, since we already have a second executive session at the end of the evening, perhaps we want to postpone this.
Unfortunately, it is related to the next item.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Sorry.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session, inviting the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and business manager.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Sorry, we have to ask you to vacate, but it will be quick. Thank you. Right, you're off.
Coming through. Just trying to set everything up so we have the same time frame, so we don't have people running from one side to another. So they're not support for Michelle, I should remember. Were there any other reports? Countywide.
Okay. Mrs. Bush.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the MOU as discussed in executive session.
Is there a second? Mr. Stansel?
Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Right now, we'll move on to item 5.3, which is the appointment of acting assistant principal of Vernon Center Middle School. Mr. McCarron.
So as we know, Jason Mangio became the director of teaching and learning. He's created an opening at the middle school. We want to fill the opening for the remainder of the year. After an interview process and selection committee, Allison Jadidia was chosen as the top candidate. She'll fill the role in an acting position from October 13 to the end of the 2015-16 school year.
Mrs. Arndt.
I'll just say so moved since he read the motion.
I'm sorry.
No,
It's my first meeting. Gotta give me a little.
Is there a second? Mrs. Bush.
Second.
Any discussion, comments, concerns? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you, Allison, for being here. And good luck.
Congratulations.
Good luck. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to item 6.1, summer school report.
Ladies first. Just keep them close.
So who would like to go first?
Oh.
First question right there.
Push the button.
From the right side.
All right, thank you. The, can you hear me this one?
Turn on. You have to hold it down.
Thank you. Okay. So, bear with me, this is a report that I just kind of picked up, it was prepared, and I updated the numbers. So I can go over the actual enrollment through the report, or I can take away some of the highlights. So I put together a few highlights of the report. And just a few things is, as you know, most students need some kind of relearning and recovery after the interruption summer. I know normally we don't consider summer as an interruption, but for academically it is. Students that were recommended for the extended school year program, it would take significantly more time to kind of recover those lost skills throughout the summer. We served 145 students ranging from preschool to age 21. And our middle school, high school, and
Listen to the Tricia,
middle school, high school, and our post-high school program, our Next Step program, included community-based learning. So a lot of activities, students went out into the community. Students who didn't have library cards were able to get library cards. And
I'm sorry, we're a little.
That's okay.
Please, I feel bad, I'm sorry. Go ahead, 145 students.
Thank you. Okay. So we're able to offer a lot of community-based learning in our programs, middle school, high school, our Next Step program. We're able to offer our out-of-district students in therapeutic settings to continue with those therapeutic services throughout the summer as well. And it was a great process for me to see truly the school community and the Vernon community come together during summer school. Businesses open their doors for our students. There were, job skills. There was just a wonderful outpour of that community feeling. Staff, custodial staff, changing, cleaning regimens and everything else to accommodate different wings of the building. So it really wouldn't be possible without everybody's flexibility and support and working around the clock to make it a smooth transition.
So our out-of-district students usually do come back here for the summer? They don't have to do anything out-of-district in the summer?
I'll clarify. So the out-of-district students were able to attend the out-of-district placements throughout the summer.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so it was consistent
they receive that consistency.
Great, okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Jensen? Is this about the normal number that we service in the summer?
Last year was 147, so we're at 145. And the numbers fluctuate throughout, all the different enrollments.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. James, can you just clarify to the board the purpose of extended school year for special education students, just so everybody knows this information?
Absolutely. So, like I said, most students need extra time to kind of recover after the interruption of summer. Students that are being recommended for the services need that. It would take additional time based compared to their peers if they didn't have the summer program. So it's really to look at recovery of skills to avoid that regression. And in some it's that routine.
Great, thank you.
Mrs. Russell?
This is a small percentage of the children over the summer that really needs this to maintain. So what happens at the beginning of the school year for the rest of the kids?
So these students they were specifically recommended through their PPT, and they identified goals and objectives. So at the beginning of the school year, what's happening as well is there are students that are not on this list that needed that. Those are conversations we're having. And we're planning now, and we're measuring that regression throughout the year, so that can be recommended. Also recommending, at least 2 months before the summer, so families have time to plan. Plan vacations, things like that.
Very good. That's what I wanted to hear.
Thank you.
And there is no cost for the students, correct?
Correct. Thank you. There's no cost.
Anybody else have any questions for Todd?
Well, I'm not sure where we are. The presentation began with next step.
No, it began with special ed.
I do have questions with regard to the paperwork that was provided us.
For special ed?
No.
Well, then we're not on that right
Yeah,
now.
that's what I'm saying. I don't want to believe you.
Okay, then.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm more than happy to provide any additional information as it comes up.
Thank you very much. Let's see, you want to go next? Or no, we're waiting for high school to figure it out.
Yeah, maybe we should
Okay.
move to middle school and then we'll come back to the high school.
Good evening. Michael Gelada, Assistant Principal at Vernon Middle School. A few things I wanted to stress besides what you've seen in the report. Our program is self-funded. We brought in about $4,000. After everything's paid out, we were ahead a little bit less than $200. So we don't ask the board for any money. It's a self-funded program at the middle school. This year we served 24 students who took 36 courses. If a student fails more than one class, they're required to take summer school. We had a total of 26 students who were required to take summer school. Not all those students end up taking summer school, but we do require them. We did retain 3 students this year. 2 were in 6th grade, 1 was in 7th grade. We had several transfers. We transferred 2 students in 7th grade, 2 students in 8th grade. While this program is offered in the summer, we don't wait till June to make these decisions. We start right now. So October, our first midterm reports go out. So guidance counselors are meeting with teams, administrators meet with teams. We're making phone calls, looking at failures right now. So we don't wait till till June to make these decisions. We're doing this throughout the year so we can cut that rate down. So as you see in part of the report, our numbers are going down year after year. And that's because of the work we're doing throughout the year, on that. In order to make those recommendations about retention, we're really looking at not only their academic record, we're looking at behavioral, social, emotional. We're looking at the whole student. These decisions are not made in isolation. Again, these are made with guidance counselors, with teachers, in team meetings. We come to the best decision for our students. In terms of the program itself, it was a very successful program. We had 1 student who had an issue coming to school, not only through the school year, but had the same issue in the summer. So it was 1 student who was not successful in the summer program. Otherwise, we had no issues with behavior, no issues with anyone passing the summer school program. This was the first year we actually, somewhat similar to the high school, we were able to offer mathematics and language arts. There were students who needed other courses in social studies and science. We were able to offer that through GradPoint. Now, we only had 3 courses, but we did find that was successful for those students. So that's something we want to increase next summer. We did have several students attend the program that was recommended. So again, most of the students attended because they're required. We had 3 students. If a student fails just one class, or even if they pass all of their classes, but they may have gotten a 71, we feel like they would benefit. Sometimes we still make a recommendation, and some students take us up on that offer. So we did have 3 students attend summer school through a recommendation. Any questions at this point?
I wanted to know, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, how you classified them as marginal students, and probably students who may have failed one class? How many of those were there? You said only 3 came to summer school?
Yeah, so in 6th grade, we had 8 recommendations. In 7th grade, we had 2. And in 8th grade, we had 6. I think we had 3 6th graders who took us up on that recommendation. We didn't have any of the 7th graders nor any of the 8th graders come because they were recommended.
And you said there were 26 overall who had failed more than 2 or more?
That's correct.
And only 23 came to summer school? Or how many?
At the 26th, I think 22.
22. One is out of district and the other 3 are in the marginal.
Correct.
So the 4 that didn't come, you said you retained 2 in 6th grade and 1 in 7th grade. What happened to the 4th one?
Well, again, decisions are made on an individual basis. So some of the students that didn't attend summer school were still transferred. So we look at the whole student. So just because they're required to go, we still look at the whole student. Would it benefit the student from being retained? We know the board's philosophy on that. We know that in a lot of cases, it's not a positive thing. So it really takes a lot for us to retain these students. So again, we require them to go to summer school. We had 2 students in 7th grade being transferred. We had 2 in 8th grade, transferred. So just students who didn't attend, we felt like it was in their best interest to transfer them to the next grade.
So do you think it's the cost of the program that might be keeping these kids from coming, or lack of interest?
No, it's generally not for cost. We work with the families. What's posted here is the full rate. We do a reduced rate for anyone on free and reduced lunch. So whether they're reduced or free, we have the same rate for either. We work really closely with families on payment plans. There's some that attended this summer that we even accept a little bit less than that. So we're very willing to work with families. Again, it's on an individual basis. When we call them, guidance talks to them. If there's a need, we work very closely with them.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Russell?
I would like to follow what Mrs. Fisher was asking about. What do you think the problem is that these students don't attend? And as the parents, do they fully understand, and are they involved?
So again, it varies depending on the student. There's some parents who would like their students to be retained. They said, I want them to go back and take another year. I think it would benefit them. That doesn't mean we always come to the same conclusion as the parents do. But there's times the parents say, no, I'm not going to bring them to summer school. I think they should be retained. I think it's going to benefit them.
Mm-hmm.
There's some that...
But you move them on, though. Some of them, I know some individual basis.
Some do, and again, it's on an individual basis. We look at the whole student. Emotionally, what's best for them. Not only academically, but emotionally. So we look at the whole picture.
And you do take under consideration the parents.
Yes. Yeah.
Mr. Kent?
In the unduplicated count, you have 36, right?
Yeah, so what that means is we have 24 students, but some of those students are taking multiple classes.
Right. And within that 14 and 9, 23 of the 36 are really isolated, and 2 of the language arts 8 and math 8. So it's a curious bubble here that clearly 2/3 of all of the kids, or all of the unduplicated count, are confined into 2 of the classes that are offered. So you had said earlier that the low numbers are a reflection of doing well with the students, so that there aren't that many in the first place, and that's good. But the bubble seems to come in those two, and also in the 8th grade. So there aren't that many kids taking courses in 6 and 7, and all of a sudden in 8th grade, boom, you've got 2/3 of your head count. So what's happening all of a sudden in the 8th grade that, you know, they're waking up and saying, hey, I'm not where I should be, or I'm going into high school now and I better get it together. But you tell us, please, what you read into the fact that there's so many in the two courses amongst, it's like a dozen courses.
Yeah. I think each year it's getting progressively difficult for the students, and there's, we're trying to get these students to be more independent. So 6th grade, we're helping them more. We're, stamping planners every day, making sure that, they're writing down the homework. In 7th grade, we're doing less of that. In 8th grade, we're doing even less of that, so they become more independent. So I think the workload is increasing, trying to prepare these students for high school. So I think as the year progressing, the work's becoming more difficult. We really want to make sure these students that are passing are ready for high school. So in 8th grade, it's definitely more difficult than it has been in 6th and 7th grade. The workload definitely gets more difficult for them.
Okay, and it's just that it's language, arts, and math, and yet science there is only one.
So the reason for that is, and this comes from team meetings, the teachers know that we can't always offer all the classes. So sometimes if they're failing social studies, then they'll make a recommendation that they take the language arts, that's going to help them. So, science, math, sometimes, again, depends on where their weakness is. If they're not passing science and it's partially due to the mathematics, then they may say, we have more students for math, it's going to benefit to take the math. Now, there's some that didn't, and that's why we offered the grad point to some of the other students this year.
Thank you.
Michael, I'm not sure if my question is for you or Lindsay. I'm concerned about the students that you identify that could benefit, you believe could benefit from summer school, and they choose not to, but they're moved on. How are they supported when they get to the high school? They have not been successful, yet they're moved on. What happens when they get there?
Again, there's a number of things we look at. Another tool we use now that we have the NWA test, that gives us another picture of students' ability. So at times their students are certainly capable of it, and again, that's just another piece of the puzzle. So a student is a very capable student, and they're just not working. That you feel a little bit more comfortable moving them on because they that they can handle it. It's just a work effort. Again, there's communication with the parents. There's communication with the high school, and there's supports at the high school.
I can speak to a little bit of that in terms of, if you look at my calendar in the beginning of the year, of the end of August and September, it's full of especially 504 meetings and PPTs to put the right plans in place for these kids. And even over the summer, we look at that and actually do hold some of those meetings to set those supports in place. We communicate pretty well with the middle school, trying to find out, are there students that need more than the typical student. Communication's pretty open that way. If there are parents that are concerned, because I'm in the building all summer, we may get phone calls from parents saying, look, my child should have been, I didn't get any this summer yet, but this past summer, but I'm concerned that my child is getting moved to the high school and I'm afraid they're not ready. If I get a phone call like that, I look to see if they are assigned a case manager, or if they're possibly going to be a 504 student. If not, I find an adult in the building that child can go to, make sure that study hall teacher is aware, that kind of thing. So it is still looking at that individual student and putting the right supports in place for that child.
Thanks. Anybody else have any more questions on middle school? I'm sorry, middle school always gets nailed. I'm sorry. All right, we'll move on to the high school.
Sure. So I think you all have the report now. Sorry about that. So I'll start just financially speaking. One of my personal goals was to cut spending this summer because I felt last summer we had the ability to transfer some summer school funds that were used in the past to a centralized summer school account, and we happened to have, I think in our last year's summer school report, it was $4,800 that got used to then pay our teachers. Last year's summer school budget was over $24,000. This year's summer school budget, with cutting back 1 day a week, especially because we again use that blended learning approach, I thought that Monday through Thursday would be appropriate for the students. The teachers supported that as well. And it did prove to be pretty beneficial financially in saving us over $4,800 in our summer school budget. This summer it was $20,000. But you will notice that we were still close to $2,000 short. So just like that's in the financial report in the mine is in the last page, but just like the middle school, it's supposed to be self-funding. One of the other things that we did, aside from cutting back on the number of days, if you remember, we also increased the cost for our students and out of district, increasing the cost more for out of district students so that we didn't scare our students away or make it so that they were not capable of taking the courses. And the thought was then that we would be able to cover that cost if we had a similar number of students. In combination with that, we also semesterized our courses this past year, which proved beneficial for our students in terms of number of students passing a semester course. There were more students passing those semester courses, so they only needed to take a semester over the summer, which was much less expensive for them. So in the end, you know, we still were short some money that we actually, again on that last page there, the $1,950 were transferred in order to, again, pay our staff. So it is a struggle to make ends meet. My fear is losing a program like this because our students are they're benefited greatly by this. And if we were to make them rely solely on other districts, they wouldn't get that credit. They wouldn't be able to travel. They wouldn't be able to do that. So, you know, I'm really looking hard and thinking hard about ways to be able to support the program a little bit better. So that was the kind of the financial piece. This summer we had 86 students registered for 129 classes. I figured you might ask about last year's numbers in comparison. So last year we had 108 students register for 155 classes. Again, the numbers are less. I do believe that's because of our semesterization of those courses. So of the 86 students, 50 students were RHS students and 36 students were out-of-district students. We had more out-of-district students this summer, not significantly more, but than we did last summer, which again brought more money in for us. The number of credits they attempted was 95 credits. 71.25 or 75% of those credits were earned. Again, that number is lower this year than it was last year. I attribute that to the new program that we decided to use. We replaced GradPoint with Edgenuity. Edgenuity is, we feel, much more rigorous, much more demanding, truly, of the students. It's not about time, again, it's about understanding the content. And the students struggled. In fact, we still had the same attendance policy where if students were ahead of the game, they need not come to school and they could work on their own as long as they were on target or ahead of the game. But this summer, much more than last summer, we had full classes because the kids were struggling and the teachers were there to, you know, to be of like an intervention type teacher, as well as just content delivery for them if they needed a supplement. We still offer the seminar that we did last summer, again, to help align more with our RHS curriculum. And students for English were required to do papers, for example. In science, they had to do labs. And I asked the teachers in science to run the CAPT labs so that we can make sure that they had access to that. So you'll see in this packet the number of students enrolled and the number of students passing the course and the number of students incomplete. That incomplete number is higher, not significantly, a little bit, than last year. We had 38 incomplete this year out of 129 total classes. Last year it was 25 out of 155. I will say that the majority of those students, I'd venture a guess of about 30 of our 38, are currently working on or have completed Edgenuity this fall. And it's either a block in their schedule instead of a study hall, or they are coming after school, or doing it even on their own with support from their current subject teachers. So those students still have the opportunity to show competency in that area in the time that they're able to show that competency. I think that's everything. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Flynn.
Just a quick question on one of the numbers on the comparative enrollments of non-RH students. Could they be, non-RH students be residents of Vernon but magnet students that come back to town?
Then I considered them, if they were residents of Vernon, I considered them Vernon students.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes, because I would charge them the Vernon resident, and we had 36, most of those students came from South Windsor, the non-residents. We had a huge number of South Windsor students.
Interesting.
When you were describing some of the ways that you work on the program to encourage the kids, was that part of the blending learning program?
Yes, so part of the blending simply means having some direct instruction by your teacher, hands-on with the teacher, as well as an online component. The online component in Edgenuity is actually a certified teacher in that subject area giving a 3 to 8 minute lecture on that content, and then it has pre-tests, post-tests, quizzes along the way. And sometimes our students struggle with understanding the lesson as is demonstrated by their poor quiz score. Students weren't able to move on if they didn't pass a quiz 2 times. They had to actually come in to allow the teacher to reset it, because then they were required to get that intervention from the teacher. So that's how that worked with the students.
Percentage-wise, how is that working
What do you mean?
for the students?
Percentage-wise?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, the students were successful. They couldn't move on to the next unit unless they got, an 80% or above. In some cases, we allowed, some students said, look, I got a 76, it's my 3rd time taking it, I'm not gonna get any better at this. And so yes, we made exceptions where it was needed. But for the majority of our students, as you can see, 38 credits weren't obtained, but I would say that those students are well on their way. For some students, they really required much more direct instruction, and we were very connected to the families, contacting parents daily. And when we spoke with the parents would then say, I don't care if they're on target or if they're ahead, I want them in school every day, and you call me if they're not there. So we had plenty of those, because frankly, you're spending that kind of money and you want your kid getting the instruction. So a lot of students were there. I would say probably, make a rough estimate, 30% more than were there last year. Again, it was much more rigorous, so maybe less successful on paper, but I really think the kids pulled what they needed to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Bush.
I remember years ago, you all had an SAT prep class. I know my children attended that years ago. Is there a reason why that's not offered anymore?
Well, since years ago is hard because I've only been here for 3 years, but the SAT class, we actually offer one during the school year as an elective for students. And I can definitely see Edgenuity has an SAT course that we probably could run. I was very hesitant. It was a big transition year because we just got used to grad point, aligned everything, and then we recognized it wasn't servicing the kids the way we needed it to, and making that change to Edgenuity, I wanted teachers to have time to align the curriculum with what they were actually teaching during the school year. So there were many courses that I wanted to offer that we couldn't offer with fidelity. So SAT is something that we could definitely look into. They have world languages, but it does require some grading by a teacher. They have AP courses, so there are so many options here that I'd love to see us explore in the future.
Or with the changes being made in the SATs and stuff.
This is real time, yeah.
I would say that would be something our students may need a little extra prep work for, if they so choose, because this is an optional thing, and I think making it available to them might encourage more to come and maybe take some of the other pool courses.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Lindsay, from previous discussions when you bring this to the board, I always worry that we're doing the students a service. And I know you spend time convincing us that this is an appropriate way to recover credits. I'm glad to hear that you've chosen a new program that's more rigorous. And you told us for a couple of years that Grad Point was the way to go. I'm glad you took a second look or a third look. And Edgenuity is your choice because it's more rigorous. I hope that would be a standard of practice going forward, that I know we don't want to set students up to fail, neither do we want to give them credit when it hasn't been rigorous enough. So I appreciate that you did that homework and came up with a new program, and I hope that if there's something even more rigorous next year, that that's what you're pointing the students toward.
We will always work to what's best for our kids.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. You mentioned you had a lot of South Windsor kids this past summer.
Mm-hmm.
Any reason why?
Because their summer school program, which is not advertised by them it's not largely advertised, I guess, is something through another organization that costs over $500 for a course, and there's no teacher manning it. There's no personal contact, so that's their only summer school that they offer. So for most students, that's not. They don't really want the students to sign up for that, it seems. And we have a great relationship with them. I actually communicated with their administrative team this summer to check on. To check on what is the best way to teach some of the students that were struggling. So we have a great relationship with them. They've consistently been a high number for us, and we get kids from Tolland and Coventry, and because they don't have summer school programs.
So you have a better program and a better value.
Absolutely.
Good to know.
Any other questions? I just have one. Under other courses, what is DPT?
Our district performance test, it's a graduation requirement for our students, and some of the students that didn't pass that assessment and then did not either pass the class, that it's actually not been offered as a summer school course in the past, but as an option for students to take if it wasn't able to fit in their schedule because they didn't pass the original district performance task. Then for science, there are labs that they need to do. For math, there are, I believe, 9 sets of skills that they need to demonstrate. And so we offered it to only one student, I believe, this summer. And I didn't mention, we did have 7 seniors, if they did everything that they were required in summer school, would be able to graduate. And we do a wonderful graduation ceremony at the end of the summer school program, where they're in caps and gowns, and we have our speeches and cake and everything else. 6 of the 7 graduated. The 7th one, last year we had 100%. That 7th one just finished the end of September. He just finished his courses. So he struggled a little bit with really pulling it together, but he ended up pulling it off this past fall.
Any other questions for the high school? Thank you very much, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
Good evening. I'm Mike DeBoss. I'm the assistant principal at Center Road School and also run the program for Elementary Summer Academy and the Discovery program. I created a PowerPoint basically just to distract the attention from myself. And I'll go through it. So quickly, the highlights of 2015. First, I can't say enough about the staff that we had this year at summer school. The teachers and the support staff were all excellent. 88% of the teachers were Vernon employees the year before, which I thought was excellent. We were able to actually get almost every single teacher to teach the grade that they taught during the school year. So they're just familiar with the curriculum, they know exactly what type of instruction to give their students. And in any case possible, I gave the students the teacher that they had during the school year. And it happened more often than I thought, so it was nice just to have that. They already had that relationship going into the summer so they could really hit the floor running. This was the highest enrollment that we had in the entire summer school program in the past 20 years. It could have been more. I only had 20 years of data to go back of, but this year we topped over 200 students doing the traditional summer school, the discovery program, special ed preschool, and the other special ed programs. So I was excited to keep on seeing that grow for the past 3 years. And just one thing just about the staff. We were able to, this year Summer Academy proved to be a nice time to recruit some future employees. We were able to, I think, retain 2 or 3 paraprofessionals and offer them jobs for the school year. So it was a great time. We saw them in action, realized what we had, and then offer them jobs for the school year. And paraprofessionals, if you get the right one, it's a great bargain and a great addition for a school. Another great thing that happened this year, the first and second step program with our students with autism, they were actually able to stay at Skinner Road. Sandy Simon was willing to oversee that program, and that just helped them. Here's students that already have trouble with transitions. They were able to stay in the classroom that they were in the full year, and that really got the most out of those programs. And last, just highlight the discovery program, almost doubled by 100%. We had 33 people or students in 2014, and this year we had 60. So here's some of our eager students to be called on. This is the enrollment broken down. So for the traditional program, we had 112 students. That's K through 5. Now out of those 112, probably about 70% of those are students with IEPs. We had 60 students do the discovery program, and then you can see the rest, 16 pre-K, 16 in the special ed program, for a total of 204 elementary students being serviced during the summer. Students hard at work. I have a theme, it's a pattern going. So just by the numbers, some of those schools increased from the previous year, a few decreased. My goal next year is just, I'm curious why, I know Center Road is the largest school. It's also, the program is housed at Center Road. So I don't know if that has anything to do with the enrollment being significantly higher at Center Road versus the other schools. But that is something I wanted to explore and maybe try to promote it better in the other schools, just to try to increase enrollment for the whole district. This is actually an enrichment class right now. Now that the Chromebooks are up, every grade used the Chromebooks. Center Road has 2 carts that we let the summer school teachers use and sign out. They use them a lot for math centers. A lot of the students signed on to Lexia so they could keep on with their reading work that they were working on during the school year. These guys were actually in a fun fit club. This was one of the enrichment classes, and I think they were researching or looking at different types of exercises to present to each other. So here's by grade level. Grades K through 3, we had 2 sections in each, so we were able to pretty much keep our class sizes down. I like to have a 1 to 12 ratio during summer school, and other than 3rd grade and 2nd grade, we were able to keep those numbers below 12 to 1 ratio. As a kindergarten class, we read aloud. All of our teachers were trained in, no readers workshop, and they continued that during the summer. A lot of the other things that every single grade did, except for I think 2nd, is they switched classes. So there was a lot of collaboration between the teachers, where this is Mrs. Jensen. She actually taught language arts to both sections of kindergarten, and Sasha Harrison, the other kindergarten teacher, taught math to both sections. So a typical day at the traditional summer school, the day is 2 hours and 45 minutes. We split that up. We have 60 minutes of language arts instruction, followed by 60 minutes of math, 30 minutes of writing, which overlaps into the language arts. So although the writing is 30 minutes in there, at times they spent more than that writing. And then the first 15 minutes of the day was just to set the tone of the day, have a morning meeting, something that a lot of Vernon classrooms do at the beginning of the day, just to kind of set the tone and help with class climate. And we've been doing this for the last 3 years, just a little incentive program for the students because it is their summer. So on Fridays, the last 15 minutes of the day, we have free time for those students that earn it. For the most part, every student earns it. We had very little discipline over summer. The students were great. Some of the students that we were worried about did wonderful over the summer. They flourished, so we were really proud of them. Working hard here. So the Discovery Program, like I said earlier, we increased the enrollment by 27 students. We had less courses this year to offer, but I don't know if that helped with enrollment because there was less choices. But we also had to cancel less. So we found in previous years when we had so many offerings that we had maybe 2 people sign up here, 2 people sign up there, and we can't run a course with only 2. So by having less courses, we were able to fill them, and we had nice numbers. This is one of the enrichment programs. This was the Reader's Theater. So this was students in kindergarten and 1st grade, and they were actually making their own props before putting on their play. Some of the programs, these are all the programs that we were offered. Weird Science we did for 2 weeks. The Fun Fit Club was 1 week. Reader's Theater was 2 weeks. The Fairy Tales was 1 week. Scrapbooking was 1 week. Cartooning was for 2 weeks. The photography was actually out of the high school. That was for 1 week. And the Spanish, we had multiple sessions. We had one Spanish class for grades K through 2, and we had another Spanish class for grades 3 through 5. So here's Weird Science, one of the hits that they did. They made some flubber. So that on the left, they're mixing it, and then once it's all mixed, they have the solid form of it on the right. This was the scrapbooking class. Surprisingly, it was all girls signed up for the scrapbooking class, but they did some nice work. Overall, the cost, this excludes the teachers for the 3 special ed programs. So for all the teachers, and that's 22 teachers, the total cost was $28,000. The field trip, we went on 1 field trip this year as opposed to 3 last year. The cost of the field trip was $648. We just found that last year going on the field trips and the amount we had to pay staff to go there, it was a pretty big financial burden, so we lessened it to 1 this year. We went to Wickham Park. It was the most popular field trip from the year before, and it went well. Supplies is relatively cheap. You know, we only spent $429 on supplies, and the tuition that we collected was $6,000. Unlike the middle school and high school, we never claimed that we try to break even. Since we just the size of the program, not to mention that with special ed students, if we recommend on the IEP that they go to summer school, then we pay for them. So that was a big chunk of students. The other students that come just kind of help offset it a little bit. So here was our annual field trip. We went to Wickham Park. This is one group. There was just a lot to explore. It was a beautiful day. The kids had a nice time. The field trip was done after hours, so it didn't interrupt any of the curriculum time and the instruction time. So next steps. I always try to find things that we can improve on next for the previous year. So just to make the whole registration process easier, it's a lot on the building secretaries collecting all the forms. I would like to do an online registration. We played around with it a little bit this year. We just weren't able to get it totally launched, so that's something that I'd like to explore maybe a little bit earlier this year to make it just easier to keep track of all the transactions and who's enrolled and all that. Like I mentioned before, I would like to draw an equal amount of interest from all elementary schools. And I'm looking into maybe still going on 1 field trip next year, but also maybe bringing in a program to Center Road for the students to take part in. And when doing that, I'm trying to plan activities that will help build their background knowledge and give them experiences that they're maybe not used to or don't have the opportunity to do at home. I was talking to Lutz Children's Museum, and they had like a really cool, some cool programs that are relatively reasonably priced. So that might be something I look into next year. And just explore more off-site enrichment courses. The photography course that we take at the high school is always a big hit. I would like to maybe tap into the BOAG program if I could. I know a couple years ago I had some teachers that were interested in that. It was just we weren't able to get it off the ground. So I think that would be a wonderful experience for some of our younger students to, learn more about that agricultural program. And I also had another teacher that wanted to do some hiking and more like survival classes out at, I'm blanking on the name, over Valley Falls, which again, he brought it to me rather late, so I didn't have time to really implement it, but it did make me think, if we had enough time to plan, that would be another, neat opportunity for some of our students to be exposed to things that they don't have typically. So that's all I have, I believe. Yep. Do you guys have any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work. Mike, I just wanted to ask, how many days a week did BCMS have school? Because I noticed the high school at 4 and elementary at 5.
19 days.
So was it 5 days a week?
5 days a week.
And we typically had 4. Some of the special programs ran 5 days a week, but for the most part, we ran Tuesday through Friday. 16 days in total.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your work and thank all your teachers too for their time.
Yes, I'd like to ask Mr. Caluso to come forward while he's doing that. Just let the board know that I appreciate that Mr. Caluso came and Superintendent Macri, Bob Kleinens, and Mr. Bacaro. So we had a lot of talent there. We had a lot of ground to cover. This being one of our first facilities committee meetings with our new superintendent, so we pulled out all the files I had and made sure we covered all the ground that's been accumulating over the years. But one of the most important things, and Bill, if you would update me when I trip, but 3 of the roofs are going to begin this summer. That would be Northeast, Skinner, and BCMS. Those 3 roofs. Basically, the shovels will go on the ground when the school's out. The plan, as I understand it, would be 2017, if I remember correctly, excuse me, would be for the remaining roofs. Is 2017 the correct year?
I'm not sure exactly the year that we're going to be going for the remaining roofs, but we will be going, looking at doing more of the school roofs after these projects are completed.
Okay. All right, thank you. Then we had a brief discussion going over a report that the board was given quite a while ago in 2012. It was the Civil Rights Report of 2012, and there were some items in a facility nature that were outstanding, and they have been worked on in a gradual way over the years. They're not, however, all done, but the plan is to complete those items. Then I shared with the superintendent the agreement that the town and the Board of Ed have regarding Mr. Kleinen's agreement with us, and the working relationship and the whole design of the job coming together with the public works role that he has, as well as working on the Board of Ed project. So that was a new document for the superintendent. I don't know if you've had a chance to go over it since I shared it with you, but okay. All's good?
All's good.
Okay.
It's a good plan.
All right. Excellent. We discussed some other items, more specific in nature, such as requests of the Unified Sports Committee that on top of the press box at the high school, that there might be a barrier, so if someone's on top of the press box, they don't fall over the edge. And we realized that with a little investigation that the the actual hardware that we had at one time is no longer viable. So Mr. Peluso is investigating the opportunity to find the right equipment with the right vendor so that we can, in fact, put a safety barrier on top of the press box at the high school. The application for funding that was submitted by the Board of Ed had a $1,250,000 application associated with it. And before you, in the next agenda item, will be what we would like to do with some of that money. And that's in item 7.1A. Just very briefly, there are $3 amounts there. It's approximating $500,000 of that. We're going to ask for your approval in item 7.1A. So, having said that, what did I miss? Oh, yes. Also, the superintendent needed some basic information about the PMBC. Some of you know that the PMBC does an annual inspection of all of our buildings, and I suggested that he get together with John Leary, who's chairman of PMBC, so that those inspections can be reviewed and planning go forward on subsequent inspections of our buildings. And we had a brief discussion of Maple Street School. Now that the town has passed the plan to purchase the Salvation Army building, the concern is, of course, okay, if the town is going to take care of the building across the street, naturally our custodians haven't ever had a building separate from the building they're responsible for. So, rather than anything get dropped through the cracks, we wanted the principal and the town public works department to talk so that nothing gets left out when the snow flies. We want to make sure that the place gets plowed properly, that the salt gets spread, and we don't need any, we'd rather not have any situations where one thought the other was doing this piece or that, so that everything goes on in a safe manner. What else? BBC. I think that's everything. I'm sorry, say again?
Parking lot.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. These are my notes from the other meeting. Tonight, we had a meeting, which
Student council meeting.
yes. The student council would like to go forward with a fundraiser. Specifically, they'd like to raise $20 per parking space. And with that parking space where they park their cars, they would like to be able to paint with latex paint that particular spot as part of their fundraiser. So the board hadn't become aware of this particular fundraiser until very, very recently. So we had a quick half-hour meeting before this evening's main meeting, and some guidelines were laid down quite clearly. The board will reserve final approval or right of refusal on what would be, let's say, put in the parking spot. We discussed where these spots might occur in the student parking lot so that they didn't interfere with the band practice painting. As some of you may know, the band uses part of it. It's all laid out as if it's a football field and so on. So we didn't want any interference with that particular activity that the band goes through when they practice. And so after we had a discussion about the kinds of things we do not expect to ever see painted on the spots, we have agreed to suggest to you that you might go ahead and approve letting that fundraiser occur. I don't know if it requires a formal motion or anything, but we thought we would share it with you. It's your pleasure.
Well, I think it should because it did come before the facilities and you're approving it, so I think the board should approve it, if they so choose. Could you
Okay.
give us some of the parameters that you
Well,
shared?
some of us were concerned about some of the culturally sensitive things that might be said or painted, that there not be any religious symbolism painted, that there wouldn't be, for instance, Confederate flags painted there. There would not be something that anyone hopefully would find objectionable. And with that understanding that those kinds of items, if they ever did appear, would be removed promptly. Now, as Laura pointed out, the request would be to submit a sketch of what they would like to have, and that with the principal's approval, that they be allowed to go forward. And hopefully we don't ever have any discussion beyond that as to what might get painted there. So if I summarize that adequately for you, I hope.
I have a question, Mr. Kemp, because we were at the finance meeting. So after they do it and it's June and the students are out, do we reseal it? What do we do with the spot? Like, you know, Kemp forever, or Kemp is the best, is gonna be like one of the parking spots, so. That was a joke. That was a good one for 9 o'clock. I thought that was good. So we get to
We're thinking Macquarie forever, but that's okay. We did talk about this actually. Being latex paint, the discussion was how do we get rid of it when the student graduates? Well, they could, continue to send their $20 in, we'd take it, and they could leave it there for infinitely, but the fact is that it probably wouldn't happen. So the expectation is that this would last for the point at which the student was at Rockville High. Now, do we have to sandblast it away? We're hoping not. Mr. Peluso, what was your thought about how to get rid of?
We spoke about, to the chair, we spoke about how we would be taking care of any of the old paint, getting rid of it, and most likely power washing would be able to remove the paint. And we're talking about the community service that is needed to graduate, and that some of the students could do that as a community service project. It does put a burden on the workload of the custodians if it becomes custodians' responsibility to remove that, plus do all the summer projects and cleaning. So the thought was to have the community service students utilize those hours if needed. It's going to be latex paint. There's going to be salt. There's going to be sand. There's going to be it's going to take a beating over through the winter.
Through you, may I ask, Mr. Kent? So this, just my understanding, so this would be ongoing fundraising, and at any point in time, a student could pay $20 to paint a part. Okay, I'm not really understanding how it's working. One-time shop?
Once a year?
I don't know how it works.
If I can clarify, they're gonna have one day that they're all going to go out and paint their spots. So the students sign up ahead of time. They've got a whole map of the parking lot. The student picks their parking spot and they get a number. They would then have one day where all of the students would show up. Because the paint is being provided by the school, the students are required to purchase their own brushes or whatever applicator they're going to use. They'll show up that day, they paint the spots. So if anything's painted that's objectionable at that point, it can be immediately removed. And at that point, that's it. It's over for the year as far as what Mr. Rocket relayed to us.
So they submit their design to Mr. Rocket, he approves, and everybody shows up and paints one day during the school day?
No, not at all. Originally the plan had been they were gonna do it on the Columbus Day holiday, but since we found out about it and said, well, we really need to review that, then they're gonna try and find another day, weekend day or whatever that works.
And then, if I understood Mr. Caruso, over the summer, if it works out, then it could be a student's community service to clean a spot or clean the parking lot, or they all go away at the end of the school year.
Unless the one example was given that possibly if you're a junior and you want to keep it for your senior year, then you could pay your $20 and say don't wipe that spot. And if you really liked what you painted there, then it would still be there until through the next year.
Thanks.
So this is a fundraiser that they would probably do every year?
As long as it's successful.
Yeah.
Mr. Rocket also had a plan laid out where the kids have made some choices already as to where they would like to have their spot be. And so he understands that he's going to have to be Dr. No, and if he needs any support from us to enforce something that needs to be removed, then we would do that. But, we've got to think positive, and we appreciate the enthusiasm he's trying to generate at the high school and his free decor. And so with that positive aspect of it, we're going to recommend that this go forward.
Is this happening someplace successfully? Is this a new idea, or is this something he's borrowing from someplace?
I wish I knew. I didn't ask that question.
Don't know.
The student council members brought this idea to Mr. Rocket, so he's just a messenger. This is basically coming from the kids at the high school.
Okay, I just didn't know if it was happening someplace else.
I'm not aware.
So with all that said, I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Education approve the Paint Your Own Parking Space fundraiser from the Student Council at Rockville High School.
Is there a second, Mr. Kemp? Any more questions, comments, concerns?
Actually, just
Mr. Flynn?
what about service preparation for the painting and other preparations so that it will adhere? Or is it just going to be sort of like, here's the paint and just go at it?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, just want to make sure.
It might be easier to remove if you don't do too much. Mrs. Russell?
I just want to make it clear in my mind. And I think motion, maybe you need to consider 1 year on a continuous basis. And I think that some of them may think that this may be a permanent stop. So I think you need to put it in there as 1 year.
No, it's clearly laid out, Mrs. Russell, in the fundraiser information packet, what all the guidelines are, that ultimately it's up to the principal's discretion, and that the parking is only during school hours, so like they couldn't claim it at a sporting event or something like that, and that it only lasts through the end of the school year.
Thank you.
Mrs. Bush?
We're looking at all the concerns and stuff, but I want to say that I think it would bring a lot of joy to the students. I think it would be something that would bring a lot of camaraderie, and I think it would be a positive thing for the school. And I think that, yes, we need to be careful and make sure it's done correctly, but I think in the long run, it'll be a fun thing for the kids.
Mr. Scansel had mentioned that, I think you said that the school will be providing the paint, the students will be providing the utensils. Is there any guess at budget? I mean, I can't imagine that it's, well, I shouldn't say how much money it would be, but.
I'm still waiting to hear from Mr. Rocket of what the quantities he thinks he's going to be needing, and then we will.
And it's coming from what budget?
We have a painter's budget.
It's not coming out of school activity account?
I'll be honest, I was under the assumption that it was coming out of the school activity.
I'm not so sure of that, but the guidelines that I read indicated that they would get a brush from Dollar Store and that they get some paint from their neighbors or whatever, or what's left over in the house, and that wasn't going to fly. So it has to come from a paint can that hasn't been opened yet, it's latex paint, but my understanding was that the cost of the paint and the brush came from the students.
Mr. Carl?
If I may, through you, Madam Chair, we'll work with Mr. Rocket. The plan is to transfer the funds from the student activity account to pay for the paint. The big concern is we utilize our supply chains because they provide the safety data sheets that are required for us to ensure that the safety requirements for schools, which are extremely stringent, are met for paint supplies or any other chemical that we bring into the district.
Okay. Mrs. Russell?
How much are we charging again?
$20.
$20. Is that gonna be?
We're not charging it, this
That's
is their own
that's a
fundraiser.
fundraiser for the student council. That money will go to the student council.
But is it enough when it comes to?
That's not going to cover the cost of the paint.
I know.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not supposed to though. The school's activity account is picking up the tab for the paint.
Well, my next question is approximately how much do you think, and I know you don't know how many people are going to sign up for the fundraiser, but how much do you think we might be out of with the paint?
Through you, Madam Chair, we don't have the number yet as far as how many cans of paint, but there's a healthy student activity account balance at the high school,
Okay.
so I'm not concerned.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else?
I apologize for the misinformation on the budget. I need to use my budgets when I buy something, so that's what I was thinking.
All right, there's a motion on the floor to approve this paint your own parking space. Any more questions, concerns, discussion? Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. All right, thank you very much. Okay, I believe it's time to go on to item 7.1 now. Is that correct? Oh, Mrs. Arndt, sorry.
I'd like to ask a question of Mr. Kemp, if that's okay,
Sure.
about the Alliance Districts program.
Yeah, that's 7.1. A.
Yeah, but
That's-
I got one.
You got something that's not related to that one then?
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Mrs. Russell. I'm sorry, Mrs. Arnott.
That's okay.
We still on 7.1?
Nope, 7.1, not 7.1A yet.
Okay, I got one for 7.1.
Okay. All right, Mrs. Martin had one for that also, so we'll let her go first.
Oh, well, no, we're still on 7.1.
No. We're on, I was just moving on to 7.1A. Is everybody ready to move on to that or not?
Yes.
Yes. Yes?
Yes.
Do you have a question on 7.1?
I thought I did.
Okay.
7.1A is the Alliance grant. Do you have any other questions that is not related to the Alliance grant?
Yes.
Okay, then go for it.
I did understand that I
Okay.
needed to hold my question, but I do have a question for Mr. Kemp, if
Okay.
that's all right.
All right, I'm sorry.
Is there
20
any
bucks.
crossover between facilities and the ad hoc athletics committee? Have you assumed some of their responsibilities, recommendations? Yes.
Well, basically, yes, Steve, this is your cue. Basically, Steve was honchoing the ad hoc committee.
Right.
And he feels, well, why don't you express what you felt?
My understanding is ad hoc's done.
Yeah, at our last meeting, we dissolved it and.
I understand that, that's why I'm asking. Have those recommendations and areas of concern been handed off to the facilities committee? Okay, then that being the case, may I ask about the padding at the VCMS gym?
Yes.
Is that up?
When I asked Mr. Peluso, he promised his left arm that in 2 weeks, now, that was about a week. So tell us about the padding at the gym.
It's in process right now. They started putting it up today. It should be completed tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Peluso. Not really, Mr. Peluso.
I'm not handed. I needed that left arm.
All right. And my other question
It
has
was a
to
long
do
2 weeks. Go ahead.
with the gate at the road at VCMS that goes up to the gardens and to the frisbee golf and all. The gate at that, has that been handed off, discussed?
Not yet.
Oh,
When will?
we've not talked about I don't know. It's where cross-country runs and shares the road space with the vehicles coming and going. And my understanding is that it's been difficult to resolve because Parks and Rec is involved, because they have the community gardens and the frisbee field. Right, and so while the adults who are responsible for this are pointing fingers at each other, the kids are still running on that road that is shared with vehicles coming and going. I wish someone could do something about that, bring it up and make it happen instead of pointing to each other.
That's a fair
Yes.
request. I mean, at the next facilities committee, I think we should discuss it further. I don't know what the solution is to that either.
Well, I don't either, but it seems to me that responsible adults ought to be able to make sure that the kids are running safely. And it's been an ongoing concern since the gate came down. And I know the administrators at the middle school have tried. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody in particular. They've tried, but the waters get muddied when Parks and Rec is involved and they want people to access their frisbee thing, and we want kids to run cross-country safely. So it needs to be, please, not like the padding in the gym. It needs to be taken care of sooner than later. And if that's on your plate of the facilities committee, I would request that it get addressed sooner than later.
Michelle, do you know when the gate was taken down?
Several years ago.
Several years
It was in disrepair. They could not fix it any longer and they took it down. And there's nothing. Their parents take turns. Pardon me?
I never knew there was even a gate there.
There was a gate there, yes, and, yeah. Mr. Harrison has been very responsive, but he, it's just a matter of somebody taking responsibility, yeah.
Do you know who took the gate down? I don't.
I believe Parks and Rec took it down, but I'm not criticizing that. The gate was not functioning well, and it had been, put together with bubble gum and string.
You referred to they, I wasn't sure who did it. Not that it was a bad thing, I just, whether it's town staff or more big people.
No, Parks and Rec. But if we could work on defining who's responsible and then get it done, I don't think I'm overstating if I say it's a very concerning circumstance. At the cross-country meets, the kids are, when they're running, they have to move on off the road into the grass for cars that are passing, going up or coming down. Not a good circumstance.
Mr. Lynn, do you want to say
What we could do for a short-term solution right now is just put up some barricades. Just move them out of the way. Long-term solution would be to put in a gate. And we could do that, ASAP. But today, tomorrow morning, whatever, put over some portable barricades. Somebody puts them up during a cross-country meet. When the meet's over, take them down so we can find out who's responsible and how to get in. A permanent solution would be the gate.
I think Mr. Picaro wants to weigh in on this.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll look at it tomorrow, or start even tonight, to see what we have and get a gate out, or get a barricades out there immediately to ensure the safety, and then we'll figure out a long-term solution with facilities and public works, to get the gate or something else back up there.
And can I suggest, Mr. Picaro, not to tell you how to do your job, I don't mean that, but that you include Mr. Harrison. He has been trying to make this happen, and the roadblock has been, parents have volunteered to go stand there. It's not our jurisdiction to direct traffic. We've talked about putting orange cones out there, but we are blocking an access that Public Works. So it's sticky wicket, but if you can do something about it, thank you.
Mr. Stansel, did you want to say something? No. Anyone else? Okay, now I believe we're ready to move on to 7.1A of the approval of the general improvements to the Alliance District School Buildings Grant Program application package. Who would like to take this one on? Mr. Oh, okay, Mrs. Bush.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the Vernon Public School application for the general improvements to Alliance District's School Buildings Grant Program. This do I have to get into the details as stated in our packet?
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stansel. Any discussion, questions, comments? Mrs. Russell.
Skinner Road School, the pavement, Skinner Road School, the pavement, who will be doing this job? Because you're gonna scrape everything, it's from 1965, and
Through you, Madam Chair, Department of Public Works for the town of Vernon.
so that means that they're capable of doing everything that needs to be done.
Yes, and the, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, it's going to be contracted
Yeah.
through, the Department of Public Works will be hiring a contractor to do the job.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Lynn?
A good example of what happened with Public Works would be taking a look at BCMS's parking lot and how nice that came out over this past summer. That showcases their work and their ability to manage a project, so I'd use that as their resume.
Mr. Russell?
I was not, knocking them, it's just that I wanted to make sure it was done properly.
Right.
That's all.
Any other questions? I have some. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm looking at the middle school proposal. I think since I've been on the board, this is the third time we've extensively addressed the drainage issue at BCMS. And I'm wondering, how do I put it? $5,000 for the consultant, design consultant makes sense to me. But before there's a consultant, how is that $57,000 going to be spent?
Well, I mean, I remember the days when the VCMS fields were swamps, and we spent a ton of money on VCMS in many areas, not the least of which was drainage. The brook comes down, the water goes over, whatever. And so there was a lot of remediation done to deal with the soggy nature of the VCMS fields. So, as it's been explained to me, and it indicates here, some of the piping down there became clogged, and so the solution is to put this barrier, a porous barrier, over the pipe and have the rock around it and not penetrate into the piping, as it has apparently over the years since some of the remediation was done way back. And hopefully that'll be a solution. So that's what, I guess that's what the 57 covers, is the piping, the barrier, the rock, and the labor involved in redoing it. Mr. Cluso, do I have that right? Or?
Yeah, that's correct. There was a linear footage calculation done on the materials, the pipe, and the labor, and that's the number that was, it came out to be.
But if the consultant doesn't agree with that approach, well, I'm trying to understand how these two are going to coordinate. You're going to spend $57,000 to make sure the pipes are unclogged and don't clog again, and then $5,000 to have a consultant tell you how to deal with the water issue. What if that's not the consultant's suggestion?
Well, I don't know. I can't answer that. I expect the consultant is going to tell us how to do it properly. Obviously, the problem has been identified. The pipes are filled in with rocks. So, I'm not an engineer, but whatever they tell us to do to mitigate this is what we'll go forward with. And hopefully, that'll do it. I mean...
Maybe I didn't ask my question correctly. Is your plan to spend the $57,000 on that rock and clogged pipe issue?
The plan is to hire the consultant first.
Thank you. Okay. And if the consultant says that's a good idea, then you'll spend the $57,000. Okay.
That way, if they say it's not a good idea and we should do it a different way, we'll spend the money the other way.
Thank you.
Can I ask which field this is at BCMS?
It's the turkey field, which is...
The one along West Road?
Yes.
And we'll do that with every other project. I'm not going to override a consultant's, a professional engineer's recommendation.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, I have a question about the high school one. Which fields are you talking
We are talking mostly about the upper fields that we have to study done now. Doing the fencing, doing the backstops, doing the foul posts. There's a couple of, the scoreboards that we're talking about are not, it's not the one on the football field, it's the two other scoreboards, so that there's one on the lower fields, one on the, well, there's two, you know, there's, on the other fields, there's work, you know, the scoreboards there. But most of this work is going to be on that upper field that we had the consultant looking at.
But some of this is not what the consultant suggested. Like the fences don't seem to be high enough. It's talking about 4-foot fencing and 8-foot fencing. That's not.
We took those heights from the consultant's report.
Okay. So this would be around the backstop on the baseball field, and that would protect people on the tennis courts?
No.
No, but that's what I'm confused about.
What's there now, and correct me if I'm wrong, so we're talking, the upper field, which is south of the auditorium where we met
Right.
June, July, it's basically replacing what's there, but putting it back in correctly.
Okay.
Okay, replacing the scoreboards, chain link perimeter fence, whether it's 4 foot or 8 foot, correct?
Yes.
New dugouts, both softball and baseball, both varsity fields, new backstops. This doesn't touch the safety fence between varsity baseball and the tennis court. It doesn't touch that.
So what if we want to go ahead with possibly putting new fields in? Will this be okay that this has already been done? Or wouldn't it be better to do this after that?
In my opinion, this is buying us time, so we don't have to do that right away. So when funds become available, those fields really should be shut down.
Right, so that's why I was wondering, thinking the money should be spent on the JV baseball and the JV softball fields, and both at the lower fields. I don't know, I'm just throwing
In
it out
my
there.
opinion, there's a different set of problems over there. It has really nothing to do with the structures, it has more to do with the maintenance and the compaction issues down there, which is cheaper money than the south fields, the upper fields, south of the auditorium, the fencing, the backstops, the dugouts. Those all really should be ripped out, and those fields should be reinstalled with the proposal that we have here. So this is a good start. This is buying us time until funding becomes available.
So we're gonna do dugouts for the baseball field and the softball field.
That's my understanding, correct? As well as the scoreboards.
What kind of dugouts will they be? What will they make?
I'm assuming it's all chain link.
Well, we're going to chain link fence with roofs.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve this. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Is there anything else for Mr. Caruso while he's here? I don't think so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Okay, we'll move on to item 7.2, Finance Committee report. Mr. Picaro, how fast can you jump?
Very fast. Through you, Madam Chair.
Very fast.
I will hit the highlights for the board. We had a full Finance Committee agenda in the meeting. I'll start with the executive summary of account balances. You'll see in your year-to-date report, at this point in time, we're 77.1% used, which is comprised of $31 million in encumbrances, approximately, and approximately $8.7 million expended to date, the majority of which are in salary line items and fixed costs, and that's expected at this point in the year. You'll see in our year-to-date report that we're showing no negative balances at this point in time, and we're projecting out to be in the black towards the end of the year. So no concerns with the year-to-date budget summary report at this point in time. We discussed, I'm going to jump just to highlight some of the main points from the meeting in the interest of time. The fiscal year-end 2015 budget summary discussed in detail how we came to our fiscal year-end closing balance for the previous fiscal year. As you recall, the board had submitted a request to the town council, which is scheduled to be on the October 20th town council agenda, that any remaining balance from fiscal year 15 that we respectfully request to the town council that those funds be deposited in the capital non-recurring education account. That amount for fiscal year ending 2015 is $90,000. And we discussed, which I think is important with sharing with the board, While that is a sizable balance, we were proud about how we achieved that balance. And we discussed three main areas, the first of which is that we received higher than expected special education excess cost reimbursement. We budgeted at 70%. As you recall, the state provided 80.17% reimbursement for us for this year. The second major contributing factor to our fiscal year end balance was our volume purchasing and centralizing all the purchasing out of our central office. As you recall from previous finance committee meetings, we've expanded our use of consortiums. We're utilizing correct services for some of the larger volume purchases, and we're collaborating with the town on some of the purchases as well. And so for that reason, we were able to yield a significant amount of savings. And as you've seen over the past couple of years, we're collaborating with the town more on going out to bid for services such as our copiers, our broker services most recently. We also went out, as an example, for our electric supply of our electric utility. And so all of those have yielded savings for us as well, and that's how we came to the $90,000. A main topic of discussion was the revised Medicaid reimbursements for special education resolution, and this is presented to the board this evening as an action item for the board to endorse the revised resolution from the town, and we discussed what and how we came up with this language collaboratively with the town. Essentially, we've been doing very well with our Medicaid reimbursements. We've gone from $30,000 a year in reimbursements to well over $300,000, and we continue to see that number rise. We're expecting to hit over $400,000 within the next fiscal year on our reimbursements. And so that being said, it begs the question, how much is enough to have in our rainy day fund for special education? And we discussed, and Mr. McCary had provided our rationale for putting a cap on what's available to us through the town council in that rainy day fund. So the cap was set at $350,000. And then the resolution before you, the proposed language that is on the town council agenda for the upcoming meeting on the 20th, takes it a step further. And that is any additional funds after we fully fund that special education rainy day fund, if you will, would be directed into our capital non-recurring education fund. So essentially, over the next 5 years, we're tracking to bring in over $1 million in reimbursements to fund the capital non-recurring account should this resolution pass as written, both from the board and from the town council. There are a couple of changes that I think are important so that the board can make an informed decision as to whether they want to endorse this. The first of which is that the administrative fees that are being charged by our Medicaid reimbursement provider have not been included in our budget, and we were expecting to have them paid out of the reimbursements that we received, but the town holds that money. And so we've been sending the bills to the town and they've been paying them, but we really wanted to clarify and script that out in the resolution as well. So you'll notice an additional line that discusses that the administrative fees will be paid from the funds that we bring in. And the last point is you'll notice we went from $70,000 to $100,000, so an increase of $30,000 in general fund revenue as a result of this revised resolution. And I'm comfortable with that from the standpoint that if you look at our revenues that we've been providing to the town over the past 3 fiscal years, and this is primarily due to decreased funding from the state and the grant funding, as well as our tuition revenues, that number has been steadily decreasing. So I view this as a fair offset to that revenue. And so those are the major changes. I do ask for the board to approve this. I think this is an excellent opportunity for us to fully fund a contingency fund or a rainy day fund for special education, should we ever need it in the future. And it also gives us a viable and sustainable funding stream to fund our capital projects in our capital expenditure plan. And so with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
I'd like a motion now, it's really item 7.2B.
Well, let's just ask if you have any general questions on the finance committee report, and then we'll get on to these individual considerations. Does anybody have any questions on the finance committee report? No? Okay, we'll move on to item A then, which is the authorized signature change form for EDO 099 agreement for child nutrition programs. Just need a motion to change signatures since we have a new service director and a new superintendent. Mr. Kemp.
I move that the board approve the revised authorization signature change form authorizing and designating Superintendent Joseph Macri as the first designated signer for the agreement and claims for reimbursement, and also authorizing and designating Director of Business and Finance Michael Picaro as the second signer for the agreement and claims for reimbursement in the absence or incapacity of Superintendent Joseph Macri. Appreciate a second.
Second.
That doesn't sound too nice.
Any questions, concerns, discussion? Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Sorry. Okay, 7.2B, which is the Medicaid reimbursement for special education. Anyone want to make a motion? Mrs. Bush?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the revised language of the town of Vernon's Medicaid reimbursements for special education resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Item 7.2C, the 2015-16 tuition rate proposal. We did not touch on that, so we'll let you go for that.
Through you, Madam Chair. In your finance report this evening, you'll see Exhibit F. And as we discussed in the Finance Committee meeting, we're proposing a 2% increase in regular education. The next line item, ag education, that is set by the state, and that's been steadily decreasing as far as the tuition amounts. The next item is ag ed for special education. We're also recommending a 2% increase there. We're recommending a 0% increase on Next Step, and we did discuss briefly that our Next Step program, and this is one of those areas where we're looking at it from many perspectives. On one hand, our revenues have gone down dramatically because we're not bringing in any out-of-district students for this year, even though we were projecting around $75,000 for the town as far as revenue. And when we looked at that in a little bit more detail, just very briefly, what we found is it is not a reflection of the quality of our program. It's a quality program, and it serves us very well, and it actually saves us quite a bit of money for us having to send students out. But what we're finding is that other districts are creating the same thing to control their costs and to save money so that they don't have to spend out-of-district tuition dollars for this program. So that being said, to maintain a reasonable and marketable tuition rate, we're recommending that we stay flat, 0% from the current year. And then the last item on the next page are the additional services, instructional, behavior, and social support services, and frankly, and the evaluation costs as well on the bottom. We looked at other costs in the DIRC, our DIRC, and what CREC is charging, and our costs are higher. So we'd like to maintain a competitive edge by keeping those flat funded at 0%. So I'll ask for the board's approval on those increases.
Mr. Quinn.
I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the 2015-2016 tuition rates as presented.
Is there a second? Second. Mrs. Russell, any questions, comments, concerns? No? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. And last item is 7.2D, the assets disposal request.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Before the board this evening is a request to approve a request to the town council to dispose of assets at Northeast School, Rockville High School, and Rockville High School vocational agricultural program. As you'll see in the request, there's quite a bit of items from the library at Northeast School, lots of textbooks, old textbooks. At the high school, the same thing. There's some equipment in there as well, and the VOAG program has very old equipment dating back to the early 80s that we found when we were inspecting, and we'd like to sell it for scrap metal or see if there's some use out of it where we can get some value for it.
Anyone want to make a motion? Mr. Quinn.
Make a motion that the board approve the asset disposal request as presented.
Is there a second? Second. Any questions, comments, concerns, Mrs. Bush?
Many of those items, are you going to be putting them out for auction, not just the ag ed ones?
Through you, Madam Chair, all of the items that we can sell, we will put on publicsurplus.com.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Carroll.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to item 7.3, discussion of the upcoming Cape Caps Convention. Anyone want to add anything or discuss that? Anybody, has anybody signed up to go? Mrs. Arndt, have you signed up to go to the Cape Caps Convention? Yes. Yes? Anyone else? Mr. Kemp, I'm not sure. I don't know, are you going Friday? I'm not able to go on Friday, but they look like there's some good informative things that we could all learn from. Plus, big Vernon school grab. You can't beat that. Mrs. Arndt.
It seems in the past, I didn't go last year, I can only go every other year, but it seems in the past we've coordinated our efforts about what we're going to attend, so we cover as much ground as possible. Will we still be able to do that prior to?
Are you going on Friday or Saturday or both?
Both.
Both. Well, and Davis, you're going both?
Well, I hope so. First of all, I have to get reelected, and if I'm not,
Well, that is true,
but,
too.
if that should develop, then, yeah, we always do try to take a look at what's in the projected schedule and say, okay, what do you want to see, what do you want to see, and then make sure we're not three of us showing up at the same, session, and hopefully cover as much ground as we can. There's so many offerings, there's probably in every different time, in each time slot, there are probably 6 different modules offered. So, any Board of Ed could easily use no less than 6 members to try in an attempt to cover everything that's offered. But you can't cover all of it, but you try. So, yeah.
Well, if the two of you are going on Friday, hopefully, you're going, you two could discuss which ones you might want to go to, so there's no overlap there.
You don't have to register for them prior to?
No.
You just show up?
No, you just show up.
Okay, okay.
Well, they'd
Same
like
thing
you to
as-
register ahead of time so that they know how many seats to put where. But, it's pretty flexible because the whole state is up for re-election, basically. So if they made everybody put the request in now, it really wouldn't work. So they're kind of used to that. It works out pretty well.
Mr. McCary's going to be there also, so.
On Friday and
I'll
Saturday?
be there Friday and Saturday, so we'll meet up on Friday morning and divide and conquer.
Okay.
And I'm hopefully,
Who's that?
3 of you.
Mr. McCary? Soon to be Dr. McCary, so I'll have it ready.
Well, and I'm coming in Friday night, so I'll be there Saturday, so we'll go from there. All right. Anything else on that? Any other questions? Okay. Before we go into executive session, I was going to ask if we could do the calendar and the questions for the press, because we will not have any vote after the executive session, correct? Okay, so is that all right if we jump to those last two so we can move to normal? Anybody have any changes or updates to the Board of Ed calendar? No? Okay. And obviously we don't have any questions from the press since they're not here, so. Yes. Okay, so we need a motion to go into executive session inviting Mr. McCary and Mr. Carl. Mrs. Bush?
So moved.
Is there a second? Mrs. Martin? All those in favor?